What's going on, growers? It's James Prigioni coming to you live from Jersey. Me and Tuck have a fun one for you today. We want to share with you which tomato varieties we would grow if we could only grow 7 varieties for the rest of our lives. Let's go! Let's just jump right into it. I'm gonna share the one tomato variety I would grow if I could only grow one variety. Say there was a scenario where I only had the space to plant one plant, or I was on a patio or something. I could only put one plant in the ground. The variety I would choose without a doubt would be this one, the Super Sweet 100. I think it's pretty obvious why I would choose this thing. Just look at it. It's absolutely prolific. The amount of fruit is just incredible. Also, it has excellent disease resistance. As you look over this plant, you'll see, very little blight and just very little issues at all. Overall, just incredible. Because of its great disease resistance, it allows it to be an excellent producer late into the season, which is a huge benefit. So while some tomatoes are quit and they're not producing anymore, this thing is still pumping out delicious, delicious fruit. Let me grab one, because that's another thing that's so excellent about it. And the reason I think it's the best overall tomato, because it's easy to grow, disease resistant, and actually delicious. A great season extender too. So this is the tomato I would suggest all new gardeners get into the ground without a doubt. Let's taste it though. In my opinion, there's just nothing bad to say about the thing. Tuck thinks so too. We'll say this one's Tuck approved, right boy? One point that I want to get across with this video is that we as backyard gardeners should spend time choosing our varieties. I consider variety selection to be one of our greatest tools as gardeners. And I consider it a tool because we can use variety selection to choose not just like tomatoes that taste the best, but we can choose tomatoes with specific functions and specific reasons for growing them. I want to get to the next tomato. Of the 7 that I chose, if I could only grow 7, and the rest of the tomatoes aren't in a specific order. The first one was just the overall best tomato that I thought, that you should grow. So this second one is a Polish heirloom. I've been growing this tomato for over 7 years now. One of my all-time favorites. This is the Soldaki. And I grow this one specifically for tomato sandwiches. In my opinion, there's only one other tomato that could kind of compare with the flavor of tomato sandwiches with this one, which I'll get into later. But you can see huge beefsteak fruits, beautiful blush color to them. Let me cut one of these out. Look at that. Beautiful color, really nice tomato. And you got to really taste these to see how great they are. One issue that I have with the Soldakis though is they are prone to split and crack. So you can get some splitting and some cracking. And I think this one, look at that. So that's going to happen with some of your Soldaki sometime, but that's okay. That's no actual damage to the tomato. It'll still taste delicious. It'll just make it more prone to, accepting some disease and issues. Another thing I want to show you is on this tomato, you can see some sun scald right here. So essentially this tomato is sunburned. So this happens when the tomato gets too much direct sunlight on really hot days. So to prevent this, you could leave some extra fan leaves like this, or you could leave a sucker. So as we move up here, you notice like if you have a sucker like this with a top, you can leave that on sections where you have big tomatoes if they're getting sun scald. This will essentially shade your tomato so it doesn't get sunburned. So without a doubt, the Soldaki is one that I'll always be growing this tomato. One of my all-time favorites. The third variety of tomato I would choose is a hybrid, which just means that it won't grow true to seed. So if you save seed from it, you're not gonna get the same exact tomato that you planted the year before. And that variety right here is the Chef's Choice Orange. Look how beautiful the color is on this one. And this is an excellent variety for one reason, because it's the offspring of the Amana Orange, which is an heirloom. The Amana Orange has an excellent flavor, but not very good disease resistance. So this is a hybrid cross with that, where you can get that good flavor that comes with the Amana Orange, but you get an excellent level of disease resistance. Because of this great disease resistance, this plant produces well late into the season. And for years, it's always been the variety that has given me the most tomatoes late into the season. Another thing that's great about it, as opposed to the Soldaki, is it's crack resistant and split resistant. So you're not gonna get a lot of the splitting in this one. So when you grow this Chef's Choice Orange, Another thing too I forgot to admit is it's a great early producer too. So it's an early producer and a great late producer. So this thing will be pumping out tomatoes all through the season. This is an indeterminate variety like the first 7 that I'm going to list, which means this will continue to produce tomatoes up until frost. With good disease resistance, that helps so much. So an incredible tomato for, you know, overall production, but great flavor as well. And just a beautiful medium-sized orange tomato. You can't go wrong with this one in my opinion. The 4th tomato I would grow is one you've definitely heard of, and I would grow this one because it is, in my opinion, the most delicious tomato that there is. It's right here. This is the Sun Gold Cherry. Let me grab one of these. By far my favorite tasting tomato. And I don't eat any tomatoes through the winter because you know, they just don't do it for me. So I only eat the tomatoes when they're fresh, ripe in season. This is the one that I always look forward to because the flavor is just amazing. It's literally like nature's candy. It's so sweet, so delicious, and man, so good. So let me try one of these real quick. It's hard to even explain it. It's just a hint of you know, tartness mixed with sourness, just such a good balance. Very good flavor. You can see the tomato does real well. It's got decent disease resistance, but I don't consider this to be the best overall tomato. I consider Super Sweet 100 to be better than this, only because of its better disease resistance and its better ability to produce late into the season. But this is a tomato that I will always be growing, like no matter what. Just, it tastes incredible. Let me bring it to the other side and show you something real quick. But this tomato, it's like, I wait to eat it because when you eat things that are ripe in season, you can't compare it. It's priceless in my opinion. So I want to show you something. You can see how tall this tomato is getting, and it's growing past the trellis. We have a system set up where we're going to do something called lowering and leaning. So we have this spool set up. We're just going to release this. That's going to drop the tomato down, as you'll notice, causing it to kind of lower and lean. And it'll get caught right back to there. And what this will do will allow us to grow up the string and allow us to continue to harvest at lower heights. So we'll continue to lower and lean all these tomatoes, bring them over to kind of one side, and it'll just increase our production, allowing us to keep growing up this string and grow all the way till the frost. The 5th tomato I would grow, if I could only grow 7, would be the Rosa de Bern. Let me bring you to it right here. This is a medium-sized heirloom tomato. You can see with a beautiful, like a pink blush color, not a red, but like a nice pinkish color. And this tomato, the flavor on this one is, it's amazing. I read that it's said to be the most delicious flavored tomato in France, Germany, and Switzerland. So, you know, obviously this thing tastes good, but it's got decent disease resistance also. As we look over the plant, I've grown this one for a number of years also, and it's always produced, you know, really well for me. So it stays in the garden as a staple. You'll see we've got some nice sets down here, and then we move over, we've got another plant right over here with a good amount of sets on it. And this one is another one that is incredible for tomato sandwiches. The flavor, like I said, it's just, you know, it's tough to compare. A good producer too. So this is definitely one that I'll always have in my garden. And if I don't have some soldakis ready, or if I want to switch it up, I always use the Rosa de Berns for tomato sandwiches too. The 6th tomato that I would grow, just like the Rosa de Bern, is an heirloom variety, which means it's also open pollinated and you could save seeds from it. They would grow true to seed the next year. But this variety is an Italian heirloom, and it's an excellent one. Let me bring you to it right here. This is the Costoluto Genovese. Look at this thing. I don't grow this just because of, you know, the incredible beauty, the rib shapes. Look at that. I mean, beautiful. Look, it's not just about the beauty though, even though it looks incredible. This is also a very good flavorful tomato, and it's good for fresh eating or for canning. So it's got some multiple uses on it. Also, a thing that's great about it is it's an excellent producer, which is pretty obvious just by looking at the plant. So you know you're going to get a decent harvest. As we look through some of this though, I mean, it's impressive. Look at all this fruit on here. But we'll trail up a little bit and notice that this thing does not have very good disease resistance. So this isn't going to produce as well late into the summer as some of your hybrids and stuff. That's why you'll notice within my list, you know, I'm not just growing, you know, only heirlooms. I like to grow a variety of different kinds of tomatoes too, because that helps extend my season. So I want to make sure that I have a lot of food to eat, and, you know, growing a bunch of different varieties in regards to, you know, some hybrids, some heirlooms, all different kinds, it really opens up your overall harvest, and I think it's a lot of fun too. I always like trying new things. But you can see this is going to be a big harvest off just this one plant here. Looks like Tuck found a cucumber over there while I was snacking on the Castelluto Genovese. This guy just finds his own stuff to harvest in the garden. So hilarious and such a little character. Hit the like button if you love seeing Tuck in the videos, and throw some hearts down there for this guy, because man, he's always out here and he's always putting a smile on our faces. I'm just, trying to shoot a video talking about some tomatoes, and I turn around, this guy's snacking on cucumbers. So he's just, he's the best. We love having him in here. The 7th tomato I would grow, if I could only grow 7, is a hybrid. And this one is the Lemon Boy. The reason I chose this tomato is because it is, in my opinion, the most reliable mid-sized yellow tomato that there is. I consider this to be a beginner mid-sized tomato because it's just so basically like easy to grow. It's an excellent producer. It's got a good flavor to it, but the disease resistance is amazing. The production is amazing. How well it can extend the harvest late into the season is amazing too. So there are some years where it's just not, super conducive to grow tomatoes. The weather just doesn't work with you, and some things just, they don't always work perfectly. This year was a pretty good year to grow tomatoes, so we're having nice production. But some years it's just a little tougher. On those years, you really want to make sure you have a good reliable hybrid like the Lemon Boy or the Chef's Choice Orange. So again, it may not be anything that special growing a hybrid as opposed to an heirloom, but it's great having some foundational tomatoes to ensure yourself a good, consistent harvest. One thing you'll notice with this video is that these are my personal choices. These are ones that have done well for me over the years, and I've spent 7, 8, 10 years going through tomatoes. These are the ones that have lasted. These are the ones that for some reason I am always planting them every year. That's why I'm sharing it with you. So I want to go around and share some of the other varieties that I'm actually still growing, and I'd like for you to put a list of your favorite 7 tomatoes. Also share with me the ones that I'm missing, the ones that I'm not growing, and the ones that I have to get in the ground. I know there's some that you guys are gonna say, like the black cherry tomato. That's a great one, but I consider the Super Sweet 100 and the Sun Gold cherry to be better than that. Over here, we've got a ox heart tomato. So this one hasn't started putting out any fruit yet. This is the Hungarian heart. It's got a nice shape to it. Decent disease resistance, but obviously a pretty late producer because I haven't really had any ripe tomatoes on this one just yet. As we move to the left over here, we've got these 2 Rosa de Bern that are doing well that I just showed you, but I want to show you another one right next to me. This thing is the first year I've grown it, and man, has it just blown me away. This is the Cherry Bomb. And as we go through, this is probably one of the most vigorous plants that I've ever grown. You almost can't stop the thing from growing. It just wants to put out tops everywhere. Look at this right here. This is a fan leaf, and it wants to put out tops on the fan leaf. So the vigor on this plant is amazing. As we look up, the production is amazing too on this one. So this Cherry Bomb, it's a great tomato, but again, it does not top the Super Sweet 100 in my opinion. The Super Sweet 100 is too good and too prolific to even match with this one. As we look to the right here, this is another one that I've tried for the first time this year. This is the Flaming Burst tomato. It kind of reminds me of the yellow pear tomato, but in my opinion, it's got better disease resistance, at least in the yellow pear I have. So decent flavored one, not as good as the yellow pear in my opinion though, so I would stick with the yellow pear tomato. Let's keep moving though. We've got a lot more tomatoes growing. I want to bring you to the back section where we've got some stuff growing. Let's move there. I have some tomatoes back here that I want to show you, but first, here's the yellow pear tomato that I was just mentioning. So I think I need to get this seed from a different company or something. These seed that I got don't seem like they're great, and the pear tomato, the fruit seems really large and the plant doesn't seem that healthy. So it's one that I enjoy growing, but I'm not too happy with it at the moment. Let's move over to the pallet raised bed though and check this thing out. Look how much food and tomatoes are growing on this thing. It's like literally a tomato jungle or forest. So we've got a bunch of different varieties right here. Here we have the Brandywine Orange right here. You'll notice this isn't doing as well as the Chef's Choice Orange. So the Brandywine is an heirloom variety, potato leaf. You can see by the shape of the leaves, it looks like more like a potato leaf than a tomato leaf. So this one's not doing that great. I always have the Chef's Choice as a replacement though, a medium-sized orange. And then here we have the Pink Bumblebee. Not doing that great, but this one's kind of to see the way it looks, because as it starts getting some color, it's got that beautiful speckling of the green, so it does have decent color, but the flavor isn't worth it in my opinion. Right here, we have the Sweet Treats. So I do like this tomato a lot. It produces well for me late into the season, but it seem to not produce well enough early, really, so I wouldn't consider it one of the best. Although it does have that nice like color to it. It almost reminds me of the color you would get like with a Rosa de Bern, but a cherry tomato. As we come around this other side, you'll notice we've got this small Roselle cherry right here. This one is similar to the black cherry, which people love. I like the black cherry, but I just like the Sun Gold, like I mentioned, and the Super Sweet better. Right here next we've got the Esternia cherry. This one is a great producer. Beautiful tomatoes, but again, I just don't think that the flavor is actually there. Same thing with this one. This one's called Gardener's Sweet Heart. So I can understand why, kind of like a little heart tomato. Pretty cool, funny little points at the end of them, but again, not something that I would grow if I could only grow a few. Then over here, this is the yellow brandy wine. This one's doing really well for a brandy wine, so we're gonna get some decent fruit out of this one late into the season. But again, I always have the Lemon Boy as a medium-sized replacement yellow if I need. And then next to me right here, we have the Unicorn tomato. So you'll notice for the most part in this section, I'm growing a lot of cherry tomatoes because out of the locations within my backyard, like some of the spots I showed you earlier, those are where I'm growing a good amount of my beefsteaks because they get good direct sunlight all day. This section gets a little more shade. So if you have a section with a little more shade, it's a good idea to plant your cherries there because they take less time to ripen. So that's why we have a lot of cherries planted in this section. That's the majority of the tomatoes that I have planted. I have a few others like the big rainbow tomato and a couple other ones that haven't done that great, and they're not something that I really want to highlight too much, but overall they're nice tomatoes. So make sure you leave me a list down low. I'm one of the reasons that I wanted to make this video and I find it to be really fun is because I want to hear what your favorite tomatoes are. I need new varieties to try next year so that I could add some amazing tomatoes. So 5 years from now when I make this video, it's impossible for me to pick the top 7. I have to pick the top 10. That's what I want to do in the future. That's today's video, growers. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it. I found this video to be so much fun, and when I came up with the idea, I was thinking like of that desert island game that you play when you're like, you can only bring 5 books to a desert island, what would you bring? I was like kind of running that same scenario in my head. If I could only grow 7 varieties of tomato for the rest of my life, which ones would I grow? It took a little bit to decide, but you'll notice, again, like I mentioned, they're not all heirloom ones, and I'd encourage you to branch out. Don't be such a zealot where you only try to grow 200-year-old heirloom varieties, open pollinated. You have to save the seed from 100% organic, no watering. Just don't go crazy, overworking yourself. Make sure you have some fun. Plant some varieties that you know will produce for you, even if something happens and the year just doesn't go perfect. It'll provide a little bit of what I call tomato harvest insurance. So just get some of that stuff in. I wanted to thank Nancy Crowell for your new channel membership. Thanks for being a part of Team Grow. It means a lot to me and Tuck to have you contribute, and we wanted to thank you. We also wanted to thank everyone who are giving the super thanks for the channel. It's just awesome that you guys are willing to give back. It means a lot to me and Tuck. Look at this guy. He's always out here wandering around. It's funny because sometimes I'll just hear him behind me. He's having a good day though because it's not as hot as it's been, so he's able to just wander around without feeling like he's being too dehydrated and feeling like the water's getting sucked right out from under him. Right, boy? But we had a lot of fun with you guys. We hope you catch us on the next one. And before we go, we wanted to say, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share with your friends. Don't forget to check out the merch down low. And remember, whenever you're on Amazon, start your shopping with our Amazon affiliate link. Tuck and James will be back at you again real soon. We out.